But yeah, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of the Hustle Chronicles, where we dive into discussing amazing topics, amazing things, and meeting amazing people. We've heard from all kinds of businesses from all over the sector, and we've got another amazing business with us here today. As usual, I do not want to tell you about this business. I think it would be best if you hear from the business owner themselves. So instead, I'm going to hand over to our amazing guest today, Martin. Thanks for coming on to the Hustle Chronicles. It's great to have you here. Could we please know a bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey, for... I don't know. Thank you for the opportunity and for having me here. So I'm Martin, and I'm the co-founder of Brown Technology. And Brown Technology is an agritech company. And what we are working on is we are on a journey to bridge the gap that exists within the production sector of the agricultural value chain. And what that means is that so we are developing cooling systems that are non-electricity reliant and so are hydro-powered to enable farmers living at areas without access to electricity to be able to preserve their perishable vegetables and also get the economic benefits of their labor.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Without further ado, we're going to dive straight in because you guys are doing amazing work. And you sort of highlighted it there. So our first question for you is, we'd love to know how your journey from going from Ghana to studying at LSE has shaped your entrepreneurial mindset. It's a two-parter. And the second part is, how have these experiences influenced your approach to social enterprise development?
Interesting. So I would start from where I grew up from. I grew up from Polgo. It's a Ghanaian farming community in Ghana. And growing up, I think around 2005, I noticed that majority of these farmers were into subsistence agriculture. And what that meant was that they mainly produced for consumption. And whenever there was excess, they were compelled to sell it out. The problem being that they didn't have access to electricity. And for those who had access to electricity, they did not have financial capacity to procure for themselves cooling systems. So growing up from this community, I had seen my family labor, wake up early in the morning, go to farms, come back late at night. And at the end, their labor, the benefits they get did not commensurate their efforts. So I decided that, I could do something about it. And I initially thought this was a problem limited to my community. But when I went to senior high school to read agriculture, I noticed this was a countrywide issue. And that sparked my desire. So it later determined which path I would take in life. So instead of pursuing any other program, I decided to read agribusiness management for my undergrad. And during the studies, it also stemmed from the desire to at least find a solution to this menace or this problem. I met my co-founder, who is now my co-founder now, Nicholas, and we decided from first year, that, okay, let's see what we can do about it. So along the line, like 4 years, we didn't find a solution, but we identified two things that stood out. We noticed that over 2 million farmers in Ghana lacked access to electricity. And meanwhile, these farmers were into subsistence vegetable crop production. And also, a lot of farmers were quite quitting because they weren't motivated to continue farming. And this had potential threat to food security because if farmers don't farm, consumers don't consume. So that is how the story started. So towards my undergrad, I undertook a project, towards my dissertation, I undertook a project that, which now developed into Brown Technology. So we decided it started just as a concept. We were recognized as students with the most innovative project of the year at the Agribusiness Association of Ghana National Excellence Award. And from there, I decided, if this is a business that wanted to do good, then well, I know agribusiness, I know the agricultural value chain, then how could I learn how to develop a business model that would do good for society, but also make profit enough to sustain that business? So that is where the concept of social entrepreneurship came in. Then I decided, okay, then LSE was the best place for me to study. And so I applied for MSc in Social Innovation Entrepreneurship program. Now I'm here almost, I've just concluded my dissertation. So I would describe it to be a journey that was inspired by my background and what I saw to be an issue confronting many people. And it hasn't been a journey for me, but a journey for others to be able to solve that problem effectively.
Perfect. And I think you touched on it, but would you say that these experiences have influenced your approach to social enterprise development?
Yeah, it has, because initially I didn't know what social enterprise was. All I knew was, business, like you need to be profit oriented. But of course, you need to be solution driven and also have a problem you want to solve for people. And I later noticed, well, we could actually do good and make profit. And so this is the concept of social entrepreneurship. And it has really shaped my approach to entrepreneurship. And how this connects to my background makes me believe that in order for you to actually do good in your business, you need to have heart in what you're doing. Because for social entrepreneurship, unlike other commercial businesses or profit-driven businesses, for social entrepreneurship, you would not always see like financial figures. You are not driven by profits. And so what is that one thing that keeps you moving, that keeps you awake to still solve the problem? It is that North Star. It is that drive to make other people's lives better. So this is the distinction between an entrepreneur driven not by profit and one driven by profit. You would not always see tangible results, and the process might be so slow and long. So that has fashioned my way of thinking and how I see social entrepreneurship.
Thank you. We're now going to go on to the next question, which is all about, as you mentioned, navigating social entrepreneurship. So with over 3 years of experience in social enterprise, what would you say are some of the challenges that you have faced, and how have you overcome these challenges to drive positive change in your community?
Yeah, I would say like it's been a roller coaster, because there are moments, like I mentioned, there are moments you want to move at a certain pace, and this desire started in 2005, and you can imagine by 2022 we had come up with a concept. Up till now, we are still developing and researching, developing our prototype. We are still not, fully fledged business. We haven't started operating with what we are actually working on. So you can see the patience that this requires and the time that you need to invest in it. And so the challenge has always been, the desire to get what you envision to life, to find its, physical equivalent. Meanwhile, you are binded and limited by different factors. It has to do, lots of research has to go into it, lots of prototyping, testing of MVP, and a whole lot of things go into it. And aside that, it has always also been like team, I am a business person, but I am not a technical person. So, you have to find someone who is able to understand the concept and get it to life. So I and Nicholas, for instance, we weren't technical. Then later on, we got a technical person who got on board. And so, so that has been the journey, the challenge, and how we solved this actually was, getting to identify who would come on board to help us with this. And I think that has actually made us move forward. So I'm proud to say at the moment we currently have a laboratory that we are working on this project. So I think it's a progress we've made thanks to strategic connection and partnership.
That's perfect, and no, definitely agree. Because with any form of business, that's essentially what you need to grow and develop. Yeah. As you mentioned, especially if you're going down the sort of social enterprise route, is your business, especially as you mentioned, it might be a bit of time before significant amount of profits come in, but it is about those strategic partnerships, who you work with, who you collaborate with, who you support, who you can sort of offer advice to, and sort of looking at things not necessarily having to be a money, like you give me money for X or Y, or sort of into a change like that, but it can also simply just be, what service could you provide? What knowledge can you provide? Exactly. And I think one final thing to mention is, as you mentioned, with being an entrepreneur, you may have experience in all aspects of that, but you may not. So you may, as you mentioned, you may be more of the the business side of things. Someone may be the more technical. Someone might be the marketing. Someone might be the partnerships. But you'll have all these different people from all these different groups, and with all these different expertise. And when you all work together, and as you said, they're very passionate about the journey, the mission, your vision and value statement. You know what that is. You're working towards it. It can then mean that when you're doing work, it's fruitful, it's bringing out great results because you're all collaborating together.
That's right, because strategic partnerships is really necessary for business success. Because as an entrepreneur, you would not always know it all. You might have your area of specialization. Even if you can do most things, you would probably have to delegate, some tasks, because you would burn out. And once you burn out, the business success is threatened. So, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. We're now going to go on to the next question, which is all about winning strategies. Now, as you mentioned, you are an award winner, but you recently won first place at the LSE Generate Startup Competition, and you were placed as a runner-up at the Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. I also know from meeting you at the Venture Crawl, and we can talk a bit about what the Venture Crawl is a bit later, but I know you also put forward for the pitch at the Venture Crawl for LSE. So based on all of this work, it's clear to see that as an entrepreneur and as a business, you have winning strategies. So what strategies or mindsets do you believe have contributed most to your success in these highly competitive environments?
Yeah, I would say it's been being true to your dream and being true to what you want to achieve. I think you don't drive. I think there was a point where the need to solve the solution was what drove me. But it got to a point where that need, I was driving, I was at the forefront driving the efforts to solve the solution. But I got to a point where that dream to solve the solution drove me. And so if I attended the Venture Crawl, it wasn't because I wanted to attend, but because my business needed me to attend, of course. And if I attend LSE today, it's not because I just wanted to acquire a degree at LSE, but because my business, sent me to LSE. So I think that there comes a time where you are driven by your business, so your business take lead and inform where you go, what you do, and who you speak to. So this has been something that has been my driving force. And I say, for startups and for entrepreneurs, it can be so overwhelming at times. But you would have to always still ask yourself why you started. Sometimes it's easy to forget, especially to forget why you even started and why you should even keep going. But always reconnecting back to the reason that informed your starting. I think that has always been And, for pitching, of course, LSE Generate, the pitch competition, that was last year, I think November that I got that. And this year, March, at the Global Student Entrepreneurs Awards in London. That was just the London chapter. Yeah, I think what I have been successful in pitching, not because I have the best business idea, not because I have the best business model or I can speak, better than anyone who pitched, but it's because of my ability to demonstrate how my business means much to me and my ability to be able to run it. So when you look at impact investors, they are usually looking at 80%, 70 to 80% of what they are looking at is the entrepreneur himself and not necessarily the idea. So if you are running a business, what is it about you that makes you the right person to run the business? And so they necessarily are not excited about the idea, but also looking at the entrepreneur. What is your story? Have you failed? How have you risen? What level of resilience can you demonstrate to let us know that even with your current idea, if you are unable to, if it fails, you still can rise up with the money we are investing in the business. So I think this is what entrepreneurs should be, especially social entrepreneurs. When you go to venture capitalists, you should be able to communicate about, so they are careful about who is running the business as opposed to how attractive the idea is. So like I said, 70 to 80% is about the entrepreneur, 30 to 30% is about the business idea. But that is not to say that the idea is not something they consider, because you are coming with a business, of course. But these are the dynamics that must be put into perspective.
No, 100%. And I definitely agree. Not even just talking from my own experience, but I know Stephen Bartlett on his podcast mentions it there as well, that he, for his first business, he actually got it funded through a investor. And the investor, like what you said, like he'd been looking to get funding for it. He'd been trying to find people to get in touch that could help financially provide it. And he said the biggest thing that he looks for, because I think he was on Shark Tank in America. And he said the biggest thing that he took from it is that, or his journey, is that he invests in the person, not the idea.
Exactly.
So he said the idea could be great. The person could, it's got the best business model for that idea, or the idea is everyone can see the vision. But he said if the entrepreneur isn't passionate about it, or the entrepreneur clearly shows that this isn't that, this is just another thing to them to do. He said instantly as an investor, people just be like, no, you've got a really good idea, but I can see that you're not really into it. But he said that there are founders, there are companies that all it's just been is, even if the idea isn't concrete or the business model isn't concrete or everything hasn't been thought out about, the person's drive and passion has been the thing that's really meant to them as an investor. Actually, I'm going to give this person a chance. And it's particularly, as you mentioned, with even not just venture capitalists, if you're looking at angel investors, it's the same thing. Because with angel investors, for the most part, they're not looking for any financial benefits from it. They're just investing in the idea or the individual. So it's apparent, like you said, it's very apparent that regardless of whether you're going for angel investment or venture capitalist funding, whether it's even just regular funding competitions, the main thing is not, like you said, it's not just the idea. There is that part where, is the entrepreneur passionate about it? Does the entrepreneur have the drive to want to continue this business to solve this issue? Does this entrepreneur understand that by solving they want to actively work to solve this problem? Yes.
That's
the next question is all about so you were involved in the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program. So we would like to know, as an audience, how is your involvement with the program and other leadership initiatives like the
Yali.
Yeah, the Yali RLC.
Yali Lens. Okay, Yali RLC.
Yeah, the how it's influenced your vision for social innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, so I enrolled in the Young Africa Leaders Initiative, that is the Yali Lens. The regional leadership center is at West Africa, so they have different chapters, East Africa and all that. And I took this, I think the entrepreneurship track. That was during my undergrad, I think in 2020, I think. And yeah, this actually gave me, an introduction into what doing good through entrepreneurship actually meant, and how key skills that were required of entrepreneurs. And so they used examples like public speaking, the ability to sell your product and all that. So it introduced, it kind of like gave me an introduction into all that I wanted to become. So it used examples like Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, "I have a dream," and certain characteristics and features within it that actually entrepreneurs can learn from to be able to articulate their dreams and aspirations, or to be able to win a market. So I think this gave me just an introduction of the entrepreneurship, but very good foundation. And I think it also gave me an inspiration to continue. And I feel I owe this this journey at LSE and after my undergrad to that, because had it not been that and other courses that I undertook, I probably wouldn't have find a need to pursue my dreams or whatever I wanted to do. But it gave me a reason to, because others are doing it, others have done it. Okay, I too can do it. Yeah.
No, 100%. And thank you for that, because I think there is a lot. Sometimes the benefit of programs, people sometimes don't always think and reflect on how they can help their business and their growth, because you see how even small things such as literally just, as you mentioned, just how to do pitching, how to speak, but most importantly being with other entrepreneurs and speaking to them, it can be really beneficial to have. So yeah,
that's right.
So we've come to the last question. And this is all about the importance or the power that comes from taking small steps. So you've mentioned in your bio that you have on our website that monumental change begins with individual action. Could you share some examples of small yet impactful actions you've taken that have significantly contributed to your entrepreneurial success?
Yeah, interesting question. Beyond entrepreneurship, I remember during undergraduate studies, I also was the chairman of the KNUST Student Activist, and there was a time where students were deferred for not being able to settle their academic fees that was due them. And so this demanded that we intervene as student activists to advocate for them, because in the media, for instance, there were lot of information. Some said students deliberately did not want to pay, and all that. Some used their money for gambling and all that. But we did what we could. So we interviewed some of these students who were affected and used their plight as a basis to advocate for them to be pardoned. At the end of the day, we realized through stakeholder engagement with school authorities, that is KNUST in Ghana, we're able to, win a case for the school to pardon them, and bring them back to school whilst the rector were settling the debt. If we had crossed our hands and decided not to intervene, probably over 6,000 students would have had their dreams delayed, if not completely denied. Beyond that, in addition to that, when COVID broke, people were doing all manner of things to ensure that they limit the rate of spread of the virus. Some decided to sell like nose masks. Some decided to buy and distribute. I remember like lots of people got involved, and some of us also decided to educate people on how they could self-protect themselves and live better in a way that don't get them, exposed to the virus. Some of these are the little efforts that you can do to bring about gigantic change. So Helen Keller said, the world is not moved solely by the mighty shoves of his hero, by the aggregation of the tiny efforts of each honest worker. What this means is that if you decide to do something little, and I decide to do something little, it does not matter how little it is, but if we all decide to make a change, it comes together to build up something so great. If, for instance, in a practical case, if we decide to, let's say, avoid eating chicken, or maybe due to the cruelty caused to chicks and chickens, especially male chicks, what happens is that if you decide not, if 10 people or 100 people decide not to consume maybe eggs at all forever, and compared to one person, each and everyone in the world deciding that, okay, once a week we would not eat egg, or we would decide not to eat eggs in 2 days a week. If we all commit to that, you would see that although people have decided to abstain from eating eggs twice a day, means the aggregated effort would have huge impact in our effort to reduce the cruelty done to chicks. But if just 100 people go total abstinence from eggs, that the impact would not be as great as the aggregated impact. So that is to let us understand the power that is found in little acts. And in addition to that, you realize that if you want to do something great, as far as you are starting small, you are mostly tempted to denigrate or look down on that simple act. But you never would know how far that the impact of that simple act goes, abroad. So that is just the concept and how, what I mean by taking, little step at a time. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Martin. I think it's been really great that you mentioned the whole idea of like small actions can lead to big change, because that leads to, unfortunately, I don't have the top on me today, but one of the personal quote, and a quote that I say is related to the business, is this quote from, this Latin quote, which means Sig Parvis Magna, which is greatness from small beginnings. And it's literal, like that's like a sort of like adjusted to like modern English, but in its Latin form, or like when it's translated directly, it means from small things like greatness occurs. And that quote is all about the idea that though you might have small beginnings, or may it seem that the work or the efforts that you're putting in now don't amount to anything, they seem very small, or maybe even sometimes might feel insignificant. It's a reminder that actually no, great things and big things can come from the small things that you do today. And I guess to end, it reminds me of this quote that I saw someone say, I think it's also in the Bible, but they were talking about how the idea of for a big tomorrow, you've got to start working on small things today. And it never has to be, and I guess it relates to business, because you never have to turn around and say, well, actually, you know what, I'm going to have to develop my business plan. Like, I'm going to spend the next 24 hours developing my business plan, and I'm going to pitch to 20 investors in the next 24 hours. It's small things. So maybe it's just sending off an email, or saying, by the end of this week, I need to have worked on these 3 things for my business, and then going from there. Yeah, I agree. Because once you don't get started, you probably would never start. So, it's and I know Mark Zuckerberg said, ideas don't come up fully formed. They get to build, they get clearer as you build on them. So I think it's one key,
attitude that entrepreneurs should have, of life in general, whether you are entrepreneur or not. If you want to do something, you don't procrastinate. You get started on it. You get started with something, and based on that, you get to improve upon it. I quite guess maybe with Pick Up the Mic, you didn't start this way. You started somewhere, So yeah, that is how it is. If you never started, you never would have gotten this. So yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think one final thing to say before we wrap up is even to continue on as you mentioned from getting started, is there's this big misconception with not only just entrepreneurs, but people who want to develop a hobby or certain things. The idea that they have to. So, like, for example, relating it to Pick Up the Mic, some people may say, I can't start a YouTube channel or a podcast without having, the best microphones or all of those things. But it's as you mentioned, when we started, myself and my two friends that were helping me out, we were all using our own personal headsets. And then my family gifted me a microphone to use for online recording. So when I was at home, I was using it. But it was only slowly, like if I had said, I'm going to wait until I can buy, these expensive microphones, expensive cameras and all of this, then like you said, I never would have gotten to where I am today. And one final story to link to that is someone who was on one of our other podcasts, the Student Guide. Her name is Vanessa Maria, and she interviewed Sir David Attenborough and was just talking about like for anyone who wants to get into documentaries and do similar work to him, what can they do? And the biggest thing he said was, is, as you mentioned, just get started. He said, the amazing thing is we all have this device in our pockets that has a good microphone, most of the time a good camera, and it can record for long periods of time. And he said, the world is literally your set. You can document your journey to school. You could document life, like animals in your garden or bugs in your garden. He was just like, you could even document personal interactions within your life. You're an entrepreneur and you're in a co-working space, you can document that. But he said the biggest thing is you just have to get started, because if you wait and say, I need to be at a certain level and I need to do this and I need to do that, like you said, you never will commit to actually doing it. But if you say, I want to do a podcast, maybe you'll say, actually, I'm going to sit in front of a camera or sit in front of a microphone and I'm going to record myself, and it might not be the best thing in the world, but I want to get my journey out there and I want to start this journey. So
yeah, exactly. That's true.
Thank you. We've now come to the end of this episode of the Hustle Chronicles. It's been great speaking to you, Martin, and learning a bit more about your business, but also your journey, and learning how, I guess, as you summarised it there at the end, that these small actions are going to have a big impact, and never forgetting that. Before we let you go and we wrap up the episode, what would you say is, actually, I guess there's two things. So what would you say is like a message you would like people to go home with, and then what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so first I would start with a message to anyone watching. From what I have identified or got to realize over the years is it's better to listen to your environment, pay attention to where you are planted, because that is the best place to start from. So if you yet do not even know where to start from, for me, I started by looking at the challenges surrounding me and my environment. That, by being attentive to this, I was able to identify a North Star. So for anyone listening, you might be stuck somewhere, not know where to start from. I would just say, learn to listen to your environment, get to understand the cues. The nature and your environment is constantly speaking to you. I mean, wherever you find yourself is constantly telling you something. Just be sober and listen, and you'll be able to pick up the cues. And that should be where you start from. So, and like we said, just get started. Also, to connect, I'm on LinkedIn, Martin Lutherking Aduko, so Luther King combined. You can connect. I'm also on Instagram, Martin_Lutherking_Aduko. So I can be You can follow my works and all that. Once we are ready, especially for brown technology, you would get to learn more about it when you follow me on LinkedIn. And we are also open to, especially anyone listening who might have technical competence we are open to partner with people who share same vision.
That's perfect. And yes, if you do want to support, please do get in touch. We'll make sure that Martin's details appear on the screen and they also appear in the show notes below. But yes, thank you to you, our wonderful audience, for coming back for another episode of the Hustle Chronicles. If you like this episode, a like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss this episode or any other episodes under the Pick Up the Mic YouTube channel, make sure you click the notification bell at the bottom of this video. If you want to support Pick Up the Mic and you want to receive maybe some cool merch, early access to some content and a few other things, then please make sure you're either a YouTube channel member, which is the link is down below, or you are a member of our Patreon page, our Patreon community. We will be working on a nice name for you guys, so don't worry, by the next time we record, we'll have that ready. And yes, please do click the link below to access that. And then finally, if you would like to know about our other channels, as mentioned at the start of the video, you can check out the Two Maesters, the Senseis of Anime channel, and the Pick Up the Controller channel, all detailed below. That's a bye from us here. We wish you all a wonderful day, and we'll speak to you all soon.